stick the ad in front of it or something. Okay.
Okay, let me get into yours on YouTube, Facebook, rather.
Okay. But we are live on all three?
Yep.
I want to make sure I don't look like a librarian with these on, so I've been warned that I might. But at the moment, I'm blind, so I would really like to sort of understand what's going on here for a second. I do want to make a couple quick announcements before we get started, and as Paul starts taking the questions. At 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I am going to be combining both of my shows, Ask a Medium. I'm combining Ask a Medium and Ask Ivy into one show. We're rebranding under Ask Ivy. We'll be doing those shows weekly, which means we're taking all of your questions, your deeper questions about the universe, about life, about your personal experiences, struggles, healing, as well as your psychic mediumship questions that we always get to on Ask Medium. And you'll be getting your weekly horoscopes every single week. So please like, share, subscribe, encourage other people, your friends to do the same. When we hit 1,000, we'll be making that shift. I do want to announce that Psychic Mediumship Course for the spring semester begins on March 24th. The registration deadline is March 20th. You guys can attend from anywhere in the world, in person, online, or through video download. If you miss this semester, it's really 2 semesters long. If you miss the spring session, you'll have to wait until fall. Empathic awareness trainings. We have one coming up at Niagara University. We have another one coming up for the general public online. We have a third one coming up for teachers specifically so that you can earn 2 career credits. And we have another one for burnout, anti-burnout training. If you work in criminal justice, the healthcare profession, the educational field, you probably experience a ton of burnout. We have an empathic training specifically for you guys also. Okay, so check the website, Ivy Rivera, empathiceducator.com for those. You want to get started, Paul? What do we have?
This one here. Nope. So the question here is, when somebody takes your mediumship class, does everybody have the ability to be just as good as another, or will some people really excel where others may struggle to communicate?
Okay. So the question about joining the class here at the Psychic Mediumship training, are certain people going to be better than others, or does everyone have the opportunity to excel? Everyone has the opportunity to excel. However, certain people are more willing to let go of the blocks that come along with entering into something like this for the first time. So many of you may feel as though you experience things spontaneously. You may not feel very connected to the actual messages, or you may feel like you don't understand why you get it or what you're supposed to do with it. Those people tend to come in with a more open mindset, looking to explore and be directed. So I find that they will excel beyond people who come in, let's say, to the curriculum who have a more hoity-toity attitude, like, they sort of come from a place of ego and they're like, I already know, you can't teach me anything. Then why are you here? So if you come in with either an attitude that you already know and you're not willing to learn and explore more or change what you already think you know, or if you've had a lot of influence from previous trainings that were defective, those are the students that can sometimes get in their own way. But I've even seen students like that come in and be willing to put that stuff aside, follow the PSC method, and excel. So yeah, it's very possible. Do you want me to take another one from you, or do you want me to explain?
Please explain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple key things that are going on, and this is what some of you might be wondering today. Are you a psychic? Are you an empath, or are you a medium? What does that really mean? There are 3 different categories to intuitive ability. And this is what we focus on in the training. It's called the PSC method, the Psychology of Spirit Communication method. But through the PSC training, we're breaking it down into these three categories. Those of you who are psychic, the things that you might notice about yourself are that you have premonition dreams, or we could call these prophecy. Okay, you have prophetic visions of things that are going to happen in the future or things that have happened even in the past. It could be with you, but it could be with others as well. So if you come into contact with a lot of people during the day, let's say, that night, you may have a lot of prophecy type dreaming. Now, clairvoyance, psychic ability at the core is the ability to see the past, the present, and the future without having any prior knowledge. At the core of it, though, it is really focused on human emotion and dynamic events. So my students that have a ton of psychic ability, what I find is that we want to increase those abilities, but we also want to kind of put them on hold and pull in more light work, pull in more channeling, pull in more spirit intervention and communication, because psychic ability, picking up on human emotion, tends to be pretty toxic. So if you've ever gone to a reader, I call them street psychics, okay, and they told you a whole bunch of really negative information, even if it was accurate, it may have been disturbing. And that's a sign that they're not really light workers. They're just street psychics. And the psychic ability is the easiest thing for everyone to have. Everyone has it. And a lot of readers are tapping into it way more than I think they should be in a reading. Because you want to be able to tell the sitter what is for their highest and best good. Not just what you see and what you feel and what you know is going to happen, okay? We also have to avoid things like self-fulfilling prophecies, because even if a psychic is right about a terrible car accident or something coming up, they really shouldn't always be saying that if it cannot be prevented. So psychic ability is almost like watching a movie. It's clairvoyance. You can watch it in your mind's eye, a scenario play out in someone's life, and it can be incredibly accurate. Do you want me to keep going with category number 2? Or do you want me to take some from here and I can get back to it?
We've got some good ones that just popped in.
Okay, well, let's start taking questions and I can kind of get back to this as we go forward.
Very good. Ariane K is asking, can you give me some characteristics of being an empath? She thinks she may be one.
Oh, well, ta-da. Okay, so that was the third one I was going to get to. I'll just jump around. So we already explained psychic ability. Now I'll explain empathic ability. So empathic ability has 4 separate levels. I like to pool together categories 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4. This is what we know from scientific and medical research so far, that we have these 4 different levels. Now, what I have found is that at the lower levels, we'll have things like depression, bouts of anxiety that come and go without triggers necessarily, social anxiety, a general nervousness, sleep disturbances, headaches, chronic headaches, and you might start to see stomach problems. So irritable bowel syndrome, acid stomach, nervous stomach. People at levels 1 and 2 tend to also be hypersensitive. It could almost look like spectrum autism at times, and I believe that autistic people and a few other diagnoses out there have this majorly on the 4th level at the core. But one of the things you might notice at the 1st and the 2nd level is a hypersensitivity to loud noises and bright lights. You may have trouble being around more than 2 people. You may even have trouble being around 2 people for more than like 20 minutes at a time. You require a ton of personal space. And if you were the kind of child, or you have the type of child, or you teach, and you see this all the time, those children that have it even at the lower levels may not be comfortable with the dynamics of the room, or being around too many people, or being forced to be engaged in activities that are very rambunctious. So a lot of hypersensitivity, this would come out through their behavior as aggression, even if they're not aggressive characters. They could, even if they're extroverts, become very introverted at times, and they may cry a lot or have emotional meltdowns. Empathic ability at the 3rd and the 4th levels, we develop things like electric person syndrome, where if you, kind of like Carrie, the movie Carrie, right? If you get very upset or you get very angry or you get really excited about something, you could blow out light bulbs, you could drain batteries, computer systems would shut down around you, channels might change on the radio. We also develop at the 3rd and the 4th levels something called telepathy. You're able to read other people's thoughts. And so a lot of people at that point start to be misdiagnosed with disorders because they're hearing voices in their head, but it's actually other people's thoughts. You would very likely have developed by that time migraines from over-absorbing other people's energy, stomach problems, possibly even being diagnosed with something like bipolar disorder, more severe anxiety disorders. And we do know that empaths are the #1 group to attract narcissists and sociopaths. And if you get closer to the 3rd and 4th levels, people who want to date you, people who kind of latch onto you, narcissists and sociopaths. These are just a couple basic things that go on pretty commonly with empaths at all 4 levels. Okay.
Very cool. Tara Marie Coyne asks, my abilities were accelerating quite rapidly, and somehow they've seemed to come to a halt. What do I do?
Well, it depends on what you're doing with it. So abilities can kick in, you can level up, you can have an awakening, you can have a kundalini, you can all of a sudden start to develop, and then no sooner does it seem to halt because you've taken it as far as you can on your own. It's possible that you were going to a training that was insufficient, or that you weren't feeding the different aspects of it that you should have been. So what a lot of people do is they get involved in meditation. They get involved in a training that only really looks at how you can go inside yourself and passively wait to receive more. That is not the PSC method here at the Academy. You have to be actively involved in pursuing your growth and development. And every opportunity in you where I see a leveling up, I want to take that and feed that in the right way. But it's pretty common to see that you thought it was going to go somewhere and then it just kind of doesn't because you don't know what to do with it. Okay?
All right. Mandy G.
Okay.
How can I know which class is best suited for me at this point in my life? I have vivid dreams and I'm building a healing business.
Well, if you're building a healing business, you would want to take psychic mediumship because that teaches you the language and the foundation of everything else. So everybody ends up here eventually because there are gaps and holes in their light working business, in their healing business, in their reading business. You can't work from an empty cup. And until you understand the language of the deceased, of God, of angels, of guides, of animals, of other energies in the universe, and until you really understand how intuitive abilities work, you're not going to be able to kind of piece it all together. So I would recommend straight up that. The dreams class is part of the psychic mediumship curriculum. So, but these are also separate. So you could look more into that. The vivid dreams class, we talk about prophetic dreaming, which is more like the clairvoyant dreaming, visit dreams, astral travel, lucid dreaming techniques, subconscious dreaming, what it all means and how to analyze that. But you as a healer, I would assume that if you're working with people, you need to understand how their past lives affect them, how their mental and emotional state is affecting their physical body. If you don't understand that language in addition, there are going to be roadblocks to your success and their success. Yeah?
Yeah, it's definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
Can you go into the second?
Sure. So we already spoke a little bit on psychic ability and what it really is at its core. And we talked about empathic ability and the 4 different levels there and what that means. I want to just explain real quick before I move on to mediumistic abilities. I want to talk about how everybody has psychic abilities. So just because I'm breaking these down doesn't mean that anyone's left out of this. Every human being alive on Earth has psychic ability. I know this because they're still alive, which means they're using their gut instinct for the sake of survival. So we're tapping into it all the time. Now, not everyone has empathic ability for sure, but anyone who does have empathic ability, okay, is automatically a medium and is automatically psychic to a heightened degree. So that's a given. Now, mediumistic abilities, let's talk about this. How do you know if you have it? The ears ringing, okay, tinnitus that comes and goes, a strange frequency of humming or ringing in the ears. We would also see things like random bouts of perfusive sweating out of nowhere. You might notice that your mouth goes numb a lot, or your tongue, your face, or that your hands tingle. You might get weird translucent lines going across your vision. This makes a lot of people wonder if they have like low blood sugar, okay, or they have blood pressure issues, but it could be that a spirit stepped in to communicate. Another very common thing with mediums is to have something called clairsentience. Clairsentience is the ability to feel in your body, I call them physical impressions, what someone else is experiencing. Now, you can have this and pick up on it from the living, but you can pick up on this if you've mediumistic abilities from the deceased when they come in close to your energy field. Now, the deceased may be deliberately trying to give you these physical impressions so that you can accurately deliver a message from them so that you can identify how they died. It might also be accidental. A lot of the deceased aren't the greatest communicators, and they're not really owning their energy. So when they get near you, you might just pick up on all of it accidentally, and they may not have even meant to do that. So one of the common things is to have these phantom illnesses. So you may have almost like hypochondriac, okay, type symptoms where these physical impressions come upon you and then they disappear and you can't figure out what's going on with you physically. If you are a medium and you are not delivering the messages and you are not giving the time to these spirits, what they can do is, it's kind of like a haunting. It's not quite that bad, but they will pester you and they will sort of almost like latch on to you to keep trying and trying and trying to get the message across. And that can end up lingering in your energy field. So you're going to have to clear that out. Other signs of mediumistic abilities would have shown when you were 3 years old, and then again when you were 5 and 6 years old. So around 3, our mediumship really kicks up. 5 and 6, it kicks up again. It kicks up a third time between 14 and 16. And then for those of you who have adult onset mediumship, it's between like 48 and 52. And during that time, you would notice that your dreams have gotten very, very vivid, that a lot of spirits are coming and trying to deliver messages to you, that your ears are constantly ringing on and off. Remember, the grandmothers used to say, left for love, right for spite, and that was fairly accurate. Okay, spirit communication in through the left, psychic ability in through the right. And it would feel like a general bombarding of energy around you, causing anxiety attacks and possibly depression. Yeah.
Mel Hogan, she got on a little late, but she says that she tends to feel things being described inside of her when someone is talking about pain or she watches someone being hit or hurt. Is this empathic ability?
Say the first part again?
She tends to feel the things when they're being described.
Oh, okay. So Mel says basically, essentially people are telling her a story, you know, either about themselves or about someone else, and she is physically feeling it in her body as they tell this story. So would that be empathic? It can be a couple different things. A second ago, I was talking about something called clairsentience. So you may want to go back and listen to this video. Clairsentient ability is the ability to feel in your own body what someone else is experiencing. But if we're talking about empathic ability, yes, it absolutely can be that. And what you would be experiencing is something called clairempathy. It is your ability to feel in addition to the physical, the mental and emotional. So through clear empathy, we feel what the person is feeling emotionally. We may think what they're thinking, and then we may be overwhelmed with the physical elements of it. And yes, it can be horribly uncomfortable. This is a good example of this. So I'm a level 4 empath. And when I work events, public events, I often had people who come up and bombard me and want to, I'll be in the middle of juggling 5 other things at the front desk, and they'll just start telling me their story and asking me questions and sort of a demanding, of healing and information. And I'm like, what are you, nuts? Get control. Like, you don't see what can happen when you have empathic ability is that people just come at you to take your healing energy, and they literally do not treat you like you're a human being. And it is your responsibility. I forgot her name. Anne? Mel. It's your responsibility. I would recommend the empathic awareness training to protect yourself, because often when people are telling you about these situations, you literally experience it as though it is happening to you. So you're going to have to limit. If you work in a field where you have to listen to these stories all the time, and that's your job, you're going to want to use some of the techniques that are taught in the training to help you to be an observer, but not an absorber. Okay.
Very cool. So, Pinky Lee is asking, if she can hear things and see things, is she considered an empath or a psychic?
Well, things, I would need to know what things. If I can hear things and see things, am I an empath? Is that the question?
Yeah, or psychic.
Or psychic? Well, it depends on what you're hearing and seeing. So what we do in the psychic mediumship course is we break down what you're hearing and seeing. So that's the first step, is I have to know, I need your interpretation of what you just got. And then I can tell you where it's coming from. I could say it this way. If you are seeing things in your mind's eye that haven't happened yet, that's psychic. If you're feeling things that you were not told verbally from other people, that's empathic. And if you're getting messages from the dead or from some energies around you, or maybe you're not sure where it came from, it just kind of popped in your head, that's mediumistic.
Soraya Paul says she's a healer and very empathic, but needs help contacting her spirit guides to find out who they are and which of her ancestors are with her. So she's looking for help with that.
Okay, so we have a class up on the website that's downloadable. If you just want that individual class, it's called Meet Your Guides. I train you in who your guides are, who's appointed to you before you come to Earth, and then you meet each one of them individually to start building on that relationship. This is a core foundational understanding before you can really get into learning the entire language. So absolutely, as a healer, you're going to want that information, not only to tap into your own guides and your relationship with them and get a better understanding of your life and how they're guiding you, because they are the ones who are with you all the time, far more than your deceased loved ones and ancestors. But also for your clients, you're going to want to learn how to, once you can really communicate with your guides, you can better communicate with their guides for their healing. So it's a whole network, and that's really our greatest power as human beings, is to tap in to that guided network. It's a gift that was given to us. Thank God we didn't come here alone, to do this. Yeah.
Very cool. You're getting a lot of people are this is resonating with a lot of people.
Oh, good. I'm glad you got, because I can't see any of your comments because my screen is frozen like always. So I don't know what's going on. I'm too blind to see that far. So I'm glad this is resonating with you guys. Keep asking any questions that you have, and we're happy to answer them. I think it's so important that we understand, especially if we are showing empathic abilities, you have to understand that you are automatically mediumistic and psychic. So while we all have psychic and mediumship abilities, empaths have it to a way heightened degree. And you can't just manage the empathic stuff and ignore these other two. It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
Very good. Is there a third part you wanted to go over?
Is there a third part? Well, I kind of wanted to touch on the clairs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and break this down a little further. So the PSC method, the Psychology of Spirit Communication method that I train you in for the Psychic Mediumship course is also going to break down. We go psychic, mediumistic, empathic, and then we break it down into the clairs. A couple key things for you guys to understand about the clairs. They are very different. Not everybody has all of them, but I have found that 99.9% of people have about 2 of them. And they get stronger as you feed it. So one of the things that we want to identify as soon as you walk through the door is, what do you naturally have? How can I feed it? And then how do we take where you have gaps and holes and start exposing you to exercises that will then trigger those abilities, okay? So with the clairs, what is it? Clairaugustine is the ability to taste and smell phantom odors or flavors, and you will literally sometimes have it in your mouth. And sometimes it's more like you're walking through, let's say, you can smell cigarettes, but you're the only one in the room who can smell them. And it's like a cloud of smoke so bad that maybe you think it's going to be in your clothes and all of this, but there's nothing there. Okay, so that's Clairaugustine. We also have clairsentience, which I already explained. I'll go over it real quick. That is the ability to feel in your physical body, physical impressions, I call them, from others that are living or from the deceased, as though it is your own body. You also have clairempathy. Clairempathy is the ability to think and feel emotionally or experience sort of energetically what someone else is experiencing, even without them trying to share it with you. Then we have clairvoyance, the most common one. That is the ability to see the past, the present, and the future accurately without being told any information. We also have claircognizance, okay, and clairaudience. Clairaudience is the ability to hear in your head spirits as though it is your own thought. It typically comes along with sweating or anxiety attacks, and all of a sudden, okay, or your ears will ring. So a lot of people think they have tinnitus or like a pressure in the ears, and then all of a sudden the thought goes in your head. The thought is not your own. It was put there by a spirit. You can understand that those of us with a lot of clairaudient ability have to be on guard for the thoughts that we're having, because negative spirits are going to be just as drawn to you as the positive spirits will be, and you don't want negative thoughts being inserted in your head all the time that don't belong there. Claircognizance is called the great understanding or the all-knowing. It is considered a gift bestowed upon the person by God when they have shown that they are truly here living a life of service. It is not the kind of thing that I see most mediums walking around with. Now every reader thinks they have it. I'm claircognizant. Oh, I got the biggest one. I highly doubt it, okay? It is more likely that nurses have it, EMTs, police officers, teachers, people who are really to the bone living a life of service. So that one is not the most common to see, but it's called the great all-knowing and the great understanding. I explain it this way. It is like having an understanding of the past, the present, the future, every one involved and every circumstance involved simultaneously. And it cannot be defined by any other clair or combination of clairs. Any more? Are we wrapping up?
Good on my end.
Okay, so I do want to invite you guys to join us for Psychic Mediumship course beginning March 24th. Registration deadline is March 20th. If you miss the spring semester, we hope to see you in the fall. Take care, guys. My screen is